Yeah, I just fell in love with the act of literally kicking the ball, and also I feel like it gave me a lot of happiness, a lot of true happiness. You know, when you're a kid and you have that just ability to enjoy everything. I feel like I was at my best when I was playing soccer. It was constantly what I wanted to do. I was known as the kid that would always have a ball by his side in my hometown. Like literally my family, my friends, like everybody would joke because I would always bring a soccer ball with me. And that's when I was like, okay, I really love this thing. I would love to do this for the rest of my life because it was the thing that gave me the most joy growing up. It takes years to become an overnight success because people always see when you go from nothing to a lot, they see, oh, this guy changed in like 3 months. He went from 0 to 100. That never happens. There's always years of work in the dark before you get that moment of like, let's just call it breakthrough, 10x, whatever it is. There's always years behind that nobody see, that only you know that you're putting in the work, because nobody wants to see you put in the work when you're bad at something. It's the same as like social media. When you're bad at doing social media and nobody sees you, is because
You're
they don't
doing it
like you
bad.
yet. Exactly. Once you're good, guess what? A lot of people are gonna see you because you're good at it. That's literally the whole point of it, right? If I could give you one piece of advice, it would be trust that if you give your 100% in whatever you do, you're gonna end up where you deserve to be and where you need to be. And if you have the peace of mind that you're doing the best that you can with what you have all the time, then nothing that happens is gonna take away that peace of mind from you.
From an obsession with soccer at the age of 4 and putting in the work for over 20 years, one injury changed everything. At some point, a sign of God put him on the path to help people with their health, and he's just starting with 100K followers on Instagram right now. Here's Alfredo, and you can listen to his story, how you can create a real impact on people as well while traveling.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Because it all started with soccer. It's the first thing you started talking about.
Yeah.
How did you come in contact with that? Because you
When I
grew up
was
in
like,
Spain, right?
yeah, I grew up in Spain. I was born and raised there. And when I was 4 years old, you start seeing kids kick the ball around and you just want to be a part of them. So that's kind of how it started.
But not everyone just gets obsessed with it
Yeah.
immediately. So
Yeah. Yeah, I just fell in love with the act of literally kicking the ball. And also, I feel like it gave me a lot of happiness, a lot of true happiness. You know, when you're a kid and you have that just ability to enjoy everything. I feel like I was at my best when I was playing soccer. It was constantly what I wanted to do. I was known as the kid that would always have a ball by his side in my hometown. Like literally my family, my friends, like everybody would joke because I would always bring a soccer ball with me. And that's when I was like, okay, I really love this thing. I would love to do this for the rest of my life because it was the thing that gave me the most joy growing up.
and then at some point, because from the age of 4 you just do it, and then you do it, you do it, you do it, you put in the work. With the kids' playfulness that comes along with it. But at the age of 10, 12, you got a coach, right?
Yeah, so at 4 is when I started, but it was just as a hobby. But very early on, I realized that if I wanted to be the best I could, I had to train a lot. Like that was just obvious to me. So all I wanted to do was spend as much time playing soccer as I could. However, at the age of 10, I got this one coach that for me, he was life changing. He was almost like a mentor, I like to say, because he's the one that planted the seed on me about realizing how hard it was to be a professional soccer player. Because at that age, you start to mature in certain ways and you start to realize a little bit how real life can be. And it's just not just like the experience that you have as a child. And he made sure that I knew how hard it was gonna be, and he made sure that if I wanted to get there, I knew that I had to train more than everybody else, because it was not just talent that would get me there; it was also hard work. And if you're not working harder than like most people, you're not gonna get what most people don't have. And we all know how hard it is to be a professional soccer player in Europe. There's millions of kids playing around Europe. What do you think you're gonna be the one that makes it? There's nothing else than hard work, and that's what he made sure he taught me.
How do you manage as a kid? Because, be honest, at 10, 12 years old, you're still just a kid.
Yeah, Yeah, so it was tough because my parents wanted me to be the best I could in school, and I wanted to be the best I could in soccer. So the way we dealt with it, was like, okay, my parents are in charge, so they made sure I had the best grades I could, and that allowed me to go and play soccer. So I was always giving my 100% to get the best grades I could because I knew that was what allowed me to do what I wanted to do the most, which was go to train every day and then go to the games on the weekends and play as many hours as I could. So first came school. My parents made sure that I prioritized it that way. And whenever I didn't, they made sure that I realized that I was playing soccer because I was doing well at school, not because I was just a good soccer player. You know?
And at some point, you got like a school. Like, how does that work? You had a specific school that you could go to in Spain
Yeah,
for soccer, right?
yeah, not necessarily. I did start getting some more looks as I grew up and I got better and better and better. And I started going to certain like academies and get some invitations and stuff like that. But it was not until the age of 17 when I actually stepped up and became one of the better players in my region, which is not a very big region, so it didn't mean that much. But that's when I started getting serious looks because also at 16, 17 is when you have to actually separate yourself from the average player. And if you want to take that next step, that's usually the age when you're growing up. They see how big you are, they see how good of a player technically you are, and they see the vision that you have for the game. Because at that age is usually when you have already developed most of your skills. So people look at those age groups as I feel like I can tell if somebody's gonna be the next big thing or not from this age group, which is the U19s age, pretty much.
That's interesting though, because it's really young, and when people start to think about a career, most people don't even think about that
Yeah.
until they're sometimes even until our age, like around 20s. People don't think about that still.
Exactly.
So then you got scouted for like a school, or how does that work in Spain?
Yeah. Yeah. So in Spain, school and soccer are completely different. It's very hard to deal with that, and especially in my household where school was the first thing and then soccer was the secondary thing, but it was the first thing for me. So the way it worked is you either sign for an academy or you keep like going the university path. So I was one of the unique people that manages to do both. There's obviously a lot of people, but it's not very common to play at a very high level of soccer and be able to manage university. In fact, I had to literally fail a class because I couldn't go. This is in 2018 when I moved to Sevilla to play for Real Betis Academy, which was my last year of U19. So I was 18 years old. And that's when I moved out of my house to sign my first professional contract in soccer. I was only 18 years old when I moved out. And I was the only one, literally the only guy that was in the Sevilla residence that was going to university. Everybody else was either like a grade behind or they were just not studying and going all in with soccer. So it felt a bit lonely, a bit out of place. It was almost weird that I was the only one going to university after training, and I was like just going by myself after I had been the entire morning playing with those kids, and I literally lived with them. However, in the afternoon, I was the only one that had to leave that to go and learn more school.
But what did they do in the same time that you studied? Like, did they play more soccer, or did
Yeah,
they just do
some
nothing?
some people
or-
just hang out with their girlfriends. Others are getting different degrees that are not university degrees. They're just different options in Spain. Others are literally finishing school because they're a year or two behind because of soccer. They failed, and then you have to recover those failed classes during the years, and you can now graduate until you finish everything. So it depended on what your past was like and then what your future was like because there was also players that did not go to school or did not study because they were that good that they were maybe close to going with the first team or stuff like that. So they were all in soccer, which at 17, 18 is crazy. It's a crazy choice. But some decide to make it because, I mean, we know football can be life changing. Like you can go from zero to making millions in a matter of a couple of years if you break out and go with a first team like Betis because it's a European club. They play Europa League. They're not far from the Champions League, so it's a big club in Spain. And they had very good years.
Yeah, but you did not stay in the academy for a long time, though.
Exactly. I only stayed for 1 year, mainly because I was not able to study and train at the level that I wanted at the same time. Like I said, it's very hard to do both things in Spain. The system is just not created for that. Um, and luckily, because of my parents, I already had a very good level of English when I got to 18 years old, because at 10, 11, they also forced me to take extra classes outside of school in English to learn more English. And then I also had the influence of one friend that was very good with English. I was lucky that he would push me to learn more and more, which was not very common in Spain. But long story short, I realized that, like I said earlier, I had to fail a class literally because I couldn't go. And I was like, this is not something that I want to do. I don't want to half-ass university and half-ass soccer because I have to deal with university, you know? And the US happens to be the perfect fit for somebody in my shoes who wants to prioritize university and play soccer at a very high level while getting that degree. And I had already thought about it before signing for Betis because, like I said, I had good enough grades that I could go. However, having played for Betis in my resume made my resume much more appealing to big universities there. And that was very important when I started looking into universities, because it's not the same to play for like a random team in Logroño, which is where I'm from, or La Rioja, versus playing for a professional academy in Spain. That's much more highly valued in the US, which is what literally allowed me to get pretty much a full scholarship for the 4 years and get a very good degree at a very good university, which is the College of William and Mary in Virginia, which is quite prestigious. It's known as the public Ivy League, which is funny. And I mean, it's one of the oldest universities. I think there's only one university that's older. It was done in 1693.
It's in Italy, right? In Bologna. I think the
The
oldest.
oldest? Yeah, it could be. I was talking about like the oldest in the US.
Oldest in US.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
the
yeah,
oldest in
yeah.
general was in Bologna in
Yeah, I
Italy.
think it is. I think
But-
I think you're right.
Not important for this
Yeah,
story.
good
so,
fact.
so then you went in to school, like you went to the US. What's that like? Because you're from Spain. US is totally different.
Yeah, it's totally different. And luckily for me, I had already experienced the US in 2015, 2016, because I went there with my parents just for like a couple weeks trip in Christmas of that year, because we were visiting some friends. And then I was like, wow, this place is cool. Like they're certainly 5 to 10 years ahead in a lot of things. And I did realize that the first time I went. And then because of forcing myself to learn more English, I also started, knowing more and more about the culture, and, maybe getting more English on social media and watching shows and stuff like that. And I really fell in love with it before I went there. The thing is, when I went there, I did not expect it to be as cool as I thought. And probably because I live in a quote unquote bubble. When you're in university, obviously I get there and I already have 30 friends, which is my soccer team. And it's like 30 people that are always going to be around me. They're always going to be there for everything I need. They know I'm a foreigner. They know I'm coming, like leaving my family like 4,000 miles away, like 6,000 kilometers away. Like they have to make it a home, and they know how to do it. That's part of the cool culture that they have around like university teams and like college sports in general, that you're gonna be with those guys for 4 years. So you better make sure you create a good environment, because if not, they're gonna be 4 long years. However, if it's a good culture, they go by like this. And that's what happened the first semester. The cool thing about college sports is that they're seasonal. So each sport gets a different season. Soccer is in fall, which means you start in August and you go all the way to November. If you're a very, very good team, you might end up in December. But that's it. So you focus in on soccer for 4 months. You're literally playing 2 games a week, pretty much, which is super high intensity. The games are super long, because they can even go to overtime if you tie, or that was the case when I went there in 2019. So you're getting so many minutes, and you're also in school. And I'm also new to the country. Like I'm also learning so many new things, getting used to like so many different ways
How do you
of
deal with that?
teaching and all that. Because of my team, I was lucky that I had people that had already gone through what I was going through, and that potentially had also taken the classes that I was taking, so they could even help me with that. It was not easy for the first like month or two, because in very big group settings, like having lunch with the team, I would not understand much of what was going on. One to one, I was fine. I was totally fine with my English, but it was on big group settings with a lot of like slang words and stuff like that that I would get a bit lost. But again, I was very lucky that my housemate was from Guatemala. So he had been living in the US for 10 years at that point, but he was born in Guatemala. So he was fluent in both. So whenever I didn't understand something, I was like, yo, what does this mean? What are we talking about? And he was like, oh, it's this and that. And he would just tell me in Spanish or in English, but just slower. And I would understand. And I was also blessed to have very good friends very early on. Like I said, when you go in and it's like 8 new kids, you usually get along with those 8 new kids that are part of the soccer team, like your soccer buddies. And there was 4 of those that are like literally became brothers at this point. After those 4 years, and from like we hit it very early. Like from the first day, we already had a very cool group, and
So it's really about the people that helped you push through and the people that made such a weird, unique experience from going a couple of 1,000 kilometers away from your own country, leaving your family, everything behind, more easy.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's always the case, like
Yeah,
people.
yeah, it is always about the people.
It's always about the people. Even in Bali, though,
Yeah,
even in Bali, when we go to the run club, it's always the people make it nice here.
Yeah.
The people you meet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we meet in the
Yeah,
run club.
yeah, we literally did. We literally did.
So then you went to America. The first year you get your head around, you experience everything. How's the college life in America? Is it like literally as in the movies or just...
It's very close. It's very close.
Yeah.
As an athlete, you have a different aura around you because the university knows that you're providing a service for the university. So you are very highly valued. Like teachers will make sure they adapt the classes for you because they know you are literally playing for the school. Like they feel like everybody feels like they're part of a team. You know, we're the team of the College of William and Mary. We're not just this soccer team and then a teacher is teaching math and that's it. No, we're all making the College of William and Mary the best school we can. Therefore, as a teacher, I'm gonna help you do the best you can in my class. You know, even if you have to miss an exam because of soccer, we have to change it. I have to give you extra classes because you can't come because you have a trip. Whatever it is, they make sure it's easier for you. So that's the cool part. And then the going out part is also very cool. It's always like you go to the houses and you have parties in the houses and all that stuff.
What's one of the craziest experiences that you've had there that you really thought like, this is literally like in a movie?
Yeah, yeah. So in my school, there's a famous day that's called blowout. And it's literally the last day of school. People skip classes. Everybody skips class just cause it's the last day. So it's like nothing's gonna happen. And there's usually it's a day party. And there's usually a house that hosts it for the entire university. So they try to get as many people as they can in that house and the surroundings of it. So there was one house that was called the Tree House, which was known for being huge, having a band literally playing live there, and everybody would go there because it was also on the main street. And I literally, when we got there, it was absolutely packed. It was like 12 or 1 p.m. and it was people were hammered. Like there was so many people there, and we literally saw it was called the Tree House because it had a massive tree, obviously, in the house, and you could see it from like 100 yards away. You knew what was the house because of the tree. I literally saw a kid like fall from the tree and basically break his shoulder, like his collarbone, in the party. Which unfortunately that's what stopped the party because the ambulance had to get there. But that was the most like, wow, this is like in the silly movies that you see, where like there's always an accident and there's always like somebody that blows it up. That's literally what it was. There was hundreds of people, and then you see people running through like the forest and like running on the street and stuff like that because obviously you're underage drinking and there's a lot of like illegal stuff going on. It's nothing crazy, but it's just like the age is 21 in the US, which means you have 3 years of college where you're not allowed to drink, which is crazy because everybody drinks in college.
But then at some point, like you had a good first year, you had some movie-like experiences in the US, you had a couple of the privileges because you were an athlete for the school, and then COVID hit.
Yep, 2020. So I got there in 2019. March of 2020, COVID hits, and I'm on spring break, which is like a little vacation week that they give us in the middle of the second semester, which is spring semester. So from like March 10th to March 20th, we were out, and that's when COVID actually started growing. It was in New York, and I was in Philadelphia, which is very close. And I actually had a planned trip to New York because I wanted to see the city. However, I was with one of my best friends who literally became a brother as well. And we're like, you know what? Let's just go to your place, spend the rest of the spring break there, and see what happens. Long story short, I ended up staying there for 3 months with him and his family. I didn't come back to Spain because quarantine in Spain was awful. There, however, we had access to like outdoor activities as long as it was just us. So they had this term called your bubble, where you hang around a certain group of people and nobody else. So what we did was hang out around his family and his grandparents. That was it, you know. So it was him and I constantly working out and playing soccer, and we had a garage gym, and then we would go train, and then just
Because
study.
that's where your first obsession started with fitness.
Exactly, exactly. That time, I mean, there was literally nothing else to do because all the classes were online and they were very easy. Like, it was the first time for a lot of teachers that they had to teach online. So they made it easy for us because they knew how stressful life was in COVID and all that. So we literally would like wake up in the morning, work out in the gym, eat good food, go to the field, train there, and then maybe have some classes and some homework. And that was about it. So that's when I started going deeper and deeper into nutrition, into I just used it as an experience to get in the best shape that I could and become the better soccer player that I could in those 3 months. Because I knew I was never gonna have a time like that where I could focus so much on soccer, because there was always gonna be school around it. So I was like, okay, him and I were like, let's dive into this. So the time where we were not training, I decided to study and like just get more knowledgeable in training, in working out, in recovery, in sleep, in nutrition, in what to eat, what not to eat, what times, etc., etc., etc.
Like the real deep dive. And then at some point, it was over. Like, how long did it last? 2 years? Or before you finally could go play again? Or a
Yeah,
year?
yeah, it was so weird because in the US you could like train, but you couldn't really play games because you like the bubble term, you couldn't exit your bubble really. So your bubble ended up being your team. We went back September 2020, but we couldn't play games. And then spring 2021, which is a year after COVID, we played a short season, which was like 8 games or something. So bad season. And then fall 2021, so a year and a half later, is when we had our first actual season after COVID.
But in
It was
2021, also something else started hitting off for you because you were in the US,
yeah,
you had soccer to focus on, but also something else.
yeah. So in 2021, I realized that my only source of income was literally soccer, and because of the scholarship, I was relying still a bit on my parents' money to help with food or with some trips and stuff like that. I was like, okay, bro, you're about to be 21 years old. Like, you have to start being your own source of income. You can't rely on your parents forever. And you also have a year and a half more of college. After that, you're on your own. Like, once you finish your degree, if you want to pursue soccer, you're on your own. So you got to start creating other sources of income. And that's why I started with network marketing. That's why I came across the industry. I really enjoyed it because
How did you come in contact with network marketing?
a friend of mine that was playing for Betis, he enjoyed it and he was like, bro, you would be good at this. You should inform yourself about it. You should find out more because I think this is something that you would be good at. I've always been personable. I've always been somebody that people look up to because, like I said, I've always taken the stuff that I do. I've always taken it seriously. I've always wanted to be the best that I can with what I'm doing. I don't care what it is. So people saw me as somebody that was very respectable. I like to say I had a good amount of integrity, and people respected that. So they knew that if I started something, it was gonna be because I really believed in it and I was gonna take it seriously. And so I did. And obviously with some success, but always as a backup plan constantly. I didn't really spend much time on developing that. It was just like, okay, I'm making a few $100 and that's about it. Like, I didn't have the time to go all in on that. And obviously, no matter what source of income you want to build, if you don't dive deeper into it, it's going to be very hard for you to scale it to the levels that you see people on social media scaling stuff to. It's never easy don't buy that anywhere. You're
Quick
gonna
money does not exist. Quick
exactly,
success also does not exist.
exactly.
But you told me like one sentence before we hit the recording.
Which one was it?
It takes a year to become an
Oh
overnight.
no, yeah, 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 I know what you're talking about. It takes years to become an overnight success because people always see when you go from nothing to a lot, they see, oh, this guy changed in like 3 months. He went from 0 to 100. That never happens. There's always years of work in the dark before you get that moment of like, let's just call it breakthrough, 10x, whatever it is. There's always years behind that nobody see, that only you know that you're putting in the work, because nobody wants to see you put in the work when you're bad at something. It's the same as like social media. When you're bad at doing social media and nobody sees you, is because
You're
they
doing
don't
it
like you
bad.
yet. Exactly. Once you're good, guess what? A lot of people are gonna see you because you're good at it. That's literally the whole point of it, right?
But you only can become good if you do the work and start off as someone who is really bad at it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
So it's the same in every field that you want to apply it to.
and was the same for you in network marketing as well? You made a
Yeah.
couple of $100, but or
Yeah.
dollars in that case.
Yeah.
But you were still focused on school. You were still focused on soccer
Exactly.
and becoming better.
That was always the priority.
And then at 2022, you had an injury.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Not the life-changing one, but also learned a couple of
yeah,
things from that,
it
right?
was a hard one. It was a hard one. You can see the scar here. I tore my meniscus. It was on my fourth season in college, but I still had an extra one because of COVID. We had that just an extra season that we could take up. But I wanted that to be my last one because I was still 22 years old. I was still young. For soccer, it's very important when you're under 23 years old because there are certain leagues that have certain rules in which it plays to your advantage, basically. And I was playing the best soccer that I had played up until that level. Obviously, since COVID, I had spent most of my time training and just becoming a better player. And we were having also our best season. We were like 10 games unbeaten, and then I tore my meniscus. It was late October 2022. November, I got the surgery, and I was out for 8 months until I came back and actually played my first game. I was supposed to be out for 6 months, but then I had no games coming up, so I just stayed ready. And 8 months later, I played my first game. But the injury was life changing in many different ways as well, because it helped me see myself as much more than just Alfredo, the soccer player, or Alfredo, the football player. And it helped me realize that even though I did put a lot of effort and energy into football, it was not everything in life. And being away from it for 6 months, 8 months, whatever, helped me realize how many other things I enjoyed and maybe how many other things I was missing out on because I was so focused on that one thing, which I never regret. If you want to be successful at anything, you have to dive deep into that, or else there's always going to be somebody that's working harder than you and you're not going to be as successful as you could be. But that did give me a lot of perspective, and I gained a lot of good experiences because of that injury.
Yeah. What of those experiences do you still take with you?
Well, thanks to that, I realized that first of all, that I value my social life much more than maybe I did. At that point, I was almost forcing people to be good for me in terms of soccer. So if you're not a good influence in my life and you're making me a better soccer player, I don't want to spend that much time with you because my goal is that one. I want to be a better soccer player. And I do think there's a time and a place for those types of relationships and for that type of mindset that I had, because like I said, if you want to be great at something, then you have to have an environment that pushes you to be great at something. However, now I think I have a much more varied friend group in many different ways, where if I want to have fun, I do have friends that I know I'm gonna have a lot of fun with. If I want to play soccer, I have a lot of friends that I know I can play good soccer with. If I want to make more money, I have a lot of good friends that I can get inspired from and that are mentors for me in that sense. So I feel like I have a lot of very different friends that I can call close friends and that inspire me in different ways that I can count on for different situations, pretty much.
It's funny. I created a video about that. That certain people are good for certain things, and that's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think a lot of people go through that phase as well, where you just think, oh, I only need to have the best people around me, or if people drag me down a lot, I cannot talk to them, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you really like to go to the museum, and you have a friend that also really likes to go to the museum, it's totally fine to use each other to go to the museum together. And if you use each other just for that, you can still be good friends and use each other just for that. But that does not mean that you go to the same person about hardship, that you go to the same person about making money, that you go for the same person about drinking a beer.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I learned that from my best friend actually, that lesson. So
Nice.
it's cool that you repeat it here as well.
Yeah.
It's because
Yeah.
it's quite valuable to know. And also a lot of people obsess about the people they hang around with, and of course, like, if you only have drug dealers around you and people who smoke weed, yeah, that's a different story. But
Yeah.
most often it ain't that bad.
Yeah, yeah. And I always like to say you're gonna be the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Like it's unavoidable that if you, like you said, surround yourself with 5 weed smokers, you're gonna be the 6th. Like it's almost impossible not to be. However, like I said, I think there's a time and a place for everything. And with friendships and relationships, I think it's the same. There's always a time to do this crazy thing and travel Southeast Asia for 3 months, and you only have a couple friends that you can do that with. Not all your friends are gonna be a good fit for that. You cannot live with most of your friends for 3 months. And if you think you can, I dare you to try because it's much harder than you actually think to like actually coexist with a person 24/7. But again, when you go back home and you have your friends from home, you have a better time with them and the stories that you have with them than like you would have with other types of friends that you may have that are more recent maybe, you know. So like I said, I think there's a time and a place for every type of friendship. However, if you're focused on something, you do have to realize that you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most.
And it's just like, at what cost comes what relationship? Because everything comes at a cost,
Yeah,
no matter what.
yeah,
And are you willing to pay that price or not? And just be honest to yourself. Like, honestly, I'm not willing to pay certain prices to get to certain points. And I'm also willing to pay a couple of prices to get to certain points as well.
yeah,
You know, so it's just be conscious about it. Because at 2023, your school ended, your whole America journey ended.
yeah. Pretty much, pretty much. If you guys don't know how it works in the U.S., when you're studying there, you get a student visa. So obviously, when you finish school, your student visa is done. So you, unless you're in the U.S. to provide some sort of like service to the country.
Welcome back to part 2.
Welcome back. Thank you.
Because yesterday you saw the first part so far, but yesterday my camera just shut off. So now we take on from the story where we left yesterday.
Sounds great.
Sounds great. So
Let's do it.
no need for a hook.
No need
Just
for a hook.
go further along in the story, because we talked about how it was for you to be in America, far away from home, and that the community who was there really accepted you and helped you go further along in integrating in the American school system, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, because that's one of the biggest changes for me was not only the culture but also the educational system there. Like I mentioned earlier, the hard part for me about studying in Spain was that I was not able to manage school and soccer, football, which was the thing that I wanted to pursue. So when I got to the US system and I realized that because I was providing a service to the university that I was going to or the college that I was attending, the professors and everybody around me saw it as something honorable and something that they had to respect and help me do better. And that was the biggest change for me because I went from failing classes because I couldn't go to class in Sevilla to actually getting exams changed because I had trainings or trips or games that I couldn't miss because during the season that's the priority. And literally teachers would come up to us and tell us like, hey, when does it work for you to make the exam, to take the exam? So it was a pretty big change, and obviously, luckily for me, I had a teammate, and he was also my roommate, who spoke Spanish. So whenever I was in like big situations where I didn't fully understand what was going on, he was always there for me to translate it, help me out, and he was always there for me to make things easier because he had been living in the U.S. for 10 plus years, so he knew everything about it. So the transition was made much easier because of that support system that I had got there.
And then the first year was exploring everything, playing the soccer seasons, and then the next year COVID hit, right?
Yep.
2020.
Yeah, 2020. We all remember it. March 2020 was when it hit. I was on spring break with one of my best friends who became literally a brother to me because I ended up living with him for the next 3 months. We were in Philadelphia, which is where he was born, and it was his favorite city. And we decided to come back to Richmond, which is in Virginia, to stay with his family until we went back to school because we were hoping we would go back to school just a week later, and that was it. And COVID was going to be solved. And long story short, I ended up staying with him for 3 months. We actually got plenty of time to log in what we wanted to do, which luckily we used that time very well. And all we did was wake up in the morning, do some school, train, eat, train again, do some more school, study, and then go to sleep. There was pretty much nothing else to do, to be quite honest. And that was the time where I got a little bit of an inflection point because I was on the way to graduate with a physics and math major. And that's when I realized that it was not actually my passion. It was just something that I was very good at and that was easy for me. But it was not something that I looked forward to studying every single day when I woke up. The thing that I looked forward to studying was nutrition and health. And luckily for me, during that period of time, my university came out with a new degree focused on human nutrition and health sciences. So I ended up taking that path.
And then also during COVID, you did a lot of self-studying, right? So you started to dive more into sleep, you started to dive more into nutrition yourself.
Yeah.
To get back at the new season twice as strong.
Yeah, that was literally the goal. It was to get to like as far as we could on our soccer journey and be the best players that we could. So I started investing most of my time in how can I get better at all these things that a soccer player needs. And one of the things that I realized was extremely necessary was focusing on recovery. And later on that summer, I started obviously studying sleep and how that affects the body and all that stuff. And I decided to invest in my health again. And I got this little guy right here, which is called the Aura Ring, which literally tracks your sleep every single day, your activity. And based on that, it gives you readiness scores, sleep scores, just everything you need to know how your body is feeling instead of it being more subjective, which is literally how you feel in the morning, which is important too, but also having objective data to help you see where your body's at and probably prevent injuries, know when to push yourself harder, know when to pull back because you might be getting closer to an injury, etc., etc. And then from then on, 2020 finished. It was a year of just COVID. We didn't really get to train. It was just hard as a team. But in 2021 is when we started having a season again, and the hard work started paying off. I had never felt better. I felt very close to the best version of myself, and it was just a matter of keeping those habits to become the best player that I could.
And in 2021, so 2020 was studying, working hard to get better. And in 2021, you also did something else.
Yeah, so 2021 is when I also realized that I was turning 21 years old, which in the US is the time when you become an adult officially, is when you can officially drink alcohol, etc., etc. And I was like, dude, you're 21 years old and you're still relying on your parents' money. That's not that cool. You have like a year and a half until you graduate from college, because I was on the path to graduating end of 2022. And you still have like no idea how you're gonna make money besides soccer, because you know that's if this is my financial stability table, I only had one leg. So if that leg falls, then the table drops. And I wanted to prevent that by trying to build other legs that would keep that table stable. And that's when I came across network marketing, and I started educating myself on like just finances and basically a lot of self-education on personal growth and monetary education. And I started trying to create other sources of income, and that's when I dove deeper into network marketing. I really enjoyed it. I fell in a community that was actually very, very, very much a leading company in Spain at the time. And I really enjoyed the product and the services, and most importantly, I really enjoyed the people in the community that I surrounded myself with. And that was why I stick to it. Was not a priority. Obviously, I made a few $100s here and there, but it clearly gave me a lot of knowledge that I was able to apply later on. And I think that's how I saw it. It's basically a school of life when you focus on something
And
like that.
how did you come in contact with network marketing?
It was just one of my friends that I was playing for Betis with came across, and he was like, "Dude, you'll be good at this. You have to like dive deeper into this industry, because if you understand it and you realize the potential that it has, the potential that you have with it, I think you would be a great fit for it." And I was like, you know what? I don't lose anything for listening and actually diving deeper, because I obviously know I have no results in terms of money. And if somebody that has certain results is telling me that I would be good at this, then I might as well listen, you know?
Yeah, why not try?
Exactly.
And what are the things that you learned from doing that while still being in school, while still training for soccer, and also doing some network marketing on the side?
Yeah. So one of the first things is that there's a time for everything. It's just a matter of priorities, and if you know your priorities, it's going to be much easier to schedule the time for those priorities. However, when you don't have your priorities clear, you're probably going to get lost in having so many things that you want to do. And that was one of the first things that I focused on. I was able to just learn how to manage my time properly, and I think that's something that I have been using to this day, and I will use for the rest of my life, because everybody has 24 hours. Cristiano Ronaldo has 24 hours in the day. I have 24 hours in the day as well. What's the difference? It's where you're putting the effort, where you're, how you're using those hours. So it's just a matter of how you organize yourself and how you focus on that. Besides that, one of the cool things about network marketing is that you end up knowing how to sell any type of product or service, because at the end of the day, it's marketing. Like, you have to sell. It depends on how much you sell and how much you help others sell as well, because that's how the company makes profit, and therefore how you make profit. So for people that are a bit like against the selling point, I like to say that everything is a sale on this day. The restaurant that you go to is a sale. Like, they sold you that you were gonna have a good experience. That's why you went there. You sold yourself to your partner, your girlfriend, or your boyfriend. You literally had to convince them that you were a good fit for them. So everything, once you realize what selling is, you realize that everything in the world is literally a sale, because a sale is just a transaction where you can use money for value, or you can use something else for some value. So at the end of the day, a sale is just a transaction, and learning how to do that the right way. So being empathetic, understanding the people's needs, understanding their situation, understanding how you can help them, etc., etc. And also, when you cannot help them, being aware that you cannot help them, and that there's probably something else out there that can help them, but it's not your product or service, is key to everything that you're gonna do in life. Because at the end of the day, everything is gonna be a transaction.
Most definitely. And now you're talking about like sales, like where you actually buy and sell something. Been in sales for 2.5 years now.
Yep.
And you also have like non-selling sales provisions. If you have a teacher, it's a non-selling sales provision. They don't directly sell you something, but it's either up to them if you buy the knowledge they give you or not.
Okay. I like that.
When you go to a nurse, it's a non-selling sales provision. You buy either the good experience they provide you, the care they take of you, or you hate the nurse and you request a new one.
Yep.
It's literally, do you buy the person or not?
Yeah.
And it does not even there's not even money involved sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a really I like what you're saying.
Yeah,
there,
that's a
because I
great.
totally agree
That's
on
a
that.
great way to put it. I didn't know that there was literally a word that defined like those types of roles.
Yeah, it's
But I feel like everybody has either come across or been in a role like that. For example, I was a bartender when I was in college. That's a story for a different time. But dude, I literally had to sell myself for people to tip me. So that was literally my job. It was giving them the best service that I could, so they would tip me more, so I would make more money. And that's okay. That's literally how it works.
funny thing. I was a bartender as well at some point, and I was learning sales back then as well.
Okay.
So then I learned the thing called upselling.
Yeah.
So every time someone came to me for a beer, like, do you want a shot with that? Just all the time. And at some point, the manager came to me and was like, okay, I know you like sales and I know you like selling, but everyone is fucking wasted here because you upsold them shots
That's funny.
too much. So,
Yeah.
so then I got in problem with the manager because I sold too much
Too much
alcohol
alcohol.
to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's a great skill to have for sure.
Yeah, that's where it all starts. So
Yeah.
I'm not selling that you. I'm not selling. No, I'm not saying that you
Yeah.
need to upsell everyone shots, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun skill sales.
Yeah.
So from network marketing, you went into the skill of sales, the skill of selling, the skill of networking, the skill of actually selling a product, marketing. But at some point, you did not have the time for that anymore, right?
Yeah. So 2021 was the year where I learned the most about this, and it was a great year of growth. It was also the first time that I was away from home for more than 10 months. I left in January of 21, and I came back in December of 21. Partially because of COVID, because I didn't want to like risk, going back and forth and maybe not being able to enter the country and all that stuff. But also because, dude, I was 21 years old. I had to like grow up, mature, and have those experiences. And then fast forward to 2022, I was on my senior season, which is usually the last season, but because of COVID, we had an extra one because we had literally not played a season, so we got 5 seasons instead of 4. And during that season, it was perfect for me because I was graduating in December of 22, and I was looking forward to playing professionally because when you're a U23, you have a lot of advantage over older people because there's certain leagues that have certain rules that make teams literally have a certain number of U23s. Therefore, graduating that year for me was perfect because I was going to be still U23. I was going to be able to hopefully find teams, and I was the fittest that I had ever been and playing at the highest level that I had ever played. And also, at the same time, we were having the best season that we had had since I got to William and Mary. We were 9 games unbeaten, and on the 10th, I happened to tear my meniscus. And then after that, everything was just a bit different. My priorities changed, obviously, and my goals in the near future changed. Not in the farther future, but in the near future changed because obviously I was not gonna be able to play professionally right after that. I was out for 8 months, so I wanted to go pro in January, and the surgery happened in November, so it was literally impossible. I also graduated, but I needed to take more classes because I wanted to pursue another year of college soccer. So I had to do that in 2023. So there was a lot of things that were happening and lining up that just switched things up for me. And during 2023, it was also the year where I wanted to go all in because I knew it was then or never to play soccer professionally. So that's when I decided to like step out a little bit of from network marketing.
Yeah. And then when you torn your meniscus because you were playing at the highest level possible, you just did not have the focus for network marketing anymore before you torn your meniscus because you were like
No. I was still able to manage it. Yeah, I was still able to manage it. It was not the first priority ever, and sometimes it was the third, sometimes the fourth, sometimes the second. But I was still able to manage it, and have cool experiences and all that. It was just when I saw that the end of my college career was coming, is when I realized, okay, I now have to go 100% on something, and it become the one and only priority, which is what happened with soccer for me, late 2023 and early 2024. And that's when I decided to step out of the industry, pretty much.
and when you torn your meniscus, you were out 8 months. How was that for you?
Yeah. So it was uncharted territory, literally, because I had never not played soccer every single day for like over 20 years. Like for when I was 4 years old to when I was like 22, and I got the surgery, I literally played soccer like almost every single day. And from that, I went without playing for 6 months almost, and without playing an official game for 8 months. So it was very hard for me to come wrap my hair around that. However, now I look back to it and I'm extremely grateful for it because it taught me a lot of things. And the first thing that it taught me is that I was much more than just a football player, a soccer player. I was, first of all, a person. I had a lot of value that I could provide outside of soccer. However, me identifying so much with that identity that I had and being a soccer player kept me away from exploring so many other options that I was not diving deep into because I was so focused on soccer. And I ended up using that time to develop a lot of skills in many different areas, get to know a lot of people, not only in the trainer's room, because obviously I was injured, so I was seeing everybody that was injured there, but also with the trainer of my team. I ended up having a great relationship with her because she was just an awesome person. But because I was never injured, I didn't get along with her that much. And also I had to learn a lot about myself because when you're at your lowest point, and that was certainly one of my lowest points because the thing that I loved the most, which was playing soccer, I didn't have at that moment. That's when you truly show what you're made of, and you truly show your character, and you truly show what you can do. And I think it taught me that it's not about the circumstances, it's about what you do with the circumstances that you have. And if you do the best that you can all the time with whatever situation you have going on, you're always going to have the peace of mind that you're doing your best. And that's perfect. Even if the situation is not the best and it's not optimal, if you're doing it the best you can, you're going to have a peace of mind that nothing else can pay.
And what are some of the things that you really realized and still take with you because of that injury?
Well, one of the things that I realized is that you are not your job, or you are not your title. You're much more than that. And I realized that I was much more than just a soccer player. I was just I was a person, and I was somebody that enjoyed health a lot, and that was one of the best opportunities that I had to actually put into practice everything that I had learned into myself, so I could see how well I could recover. And lucky enough, I ended up coming back stronger, healthier, and with a better mindset than ever, because not only had I gone through my worst times, because obviously as an injury that long and a surgery that keeps you without walking for literally 10 weeks is tough, but also the fact that I overcame that. I stayed accountable with myself. I held myself accountable, and then I was able to train, eat well, take care of my sleep and everything when it looked like it didn't matter that much because there was not a game coming up for a lot of months. So I could have let myself go and just, go out more and not take care of my body and not take care of my food because, I was not playing games. So that would have been the easy path. But taking the hard path taught me a lot of things in that way. And also it helped me realize how much value I had in terms of health because I literally helped myself recover better from a very hard surgery and injury. And I knew I could do that with just a lot of people in the world. So that was kind of like the seed that was planted there that helped me realize, dude, you can help a lot of people with the knowledge that you have because you know how to apply it on yourself, first of all.
And I think that's really important as well because lots of people sell things or do things that they have never done or never even tried. It's like a bakery who is making bread that they will not eat themselves because they think it's disgusting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird if you do that, but it's funny that within your whole story and within everything that you do, two things always come up. One, your intention is pure, and you applied it yourself. So you walk to walk,
Yeah.
not only talk to talk.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting because in 2020, you torn your meniscus, you got back healthier and fitter than ever. Then you played your last season in 2023, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was my fifth year at William Mary. I was obviously the captain. I was the oldest guy in the team. I had a huge role, and I didn't have the best season, but I had a decent enough season. I thought I could have some good opportunities in professional soccer there. So that's why I focused on December 2023 and then the first 3 months of 2024. I just went all in. I stayed in the US for those 3 months and just gave it my all.
What did you do?
I basically traveled the entire East Coast looking for different teams, doing showcases, trials, reaching out to every single team and person that I knew and see if they could help me out in any way. Because as an international, I ran out of my student visa and I had to come back as a tourist because obviously once you don't have a student visa and you don't have a job, you can't come in the country if you're not a tourist. So I came back as a tourist, just looking for the opportunity. And when you come in as a tourist, you have a 90-day span where you can stay in the country. So that's why I did. I came back January 2nd, knowing that I had until the end of March to find a team. And long story short, I drove around basically the entire southeast coast, all the way to Williamsburg, DC, Charlotte, Miami, Naples, Tampa, Atlanta, everywhere. And I ended up having a great opportunity at the end of February, beginning of March, with the second team of an MLS team, which was literally the perfect fit. It was the most amazing opportunity that I've ever had because I was so close to just being a professional and so close to the MLS as well. And also because it was in a city that I loved, and I was surrounded by a lot of good friends from college, an incredible community, an incredible situation. But then during the second week, when I was, very close to signing, I dislocated my shoulder. And it was also in March. So I was very close to having to leave the country. And so a couple weeks later, I decided to just come back to Spain and recover there because it made no sense to me and to stay in the US. And I also had to leave. I was injured. Obviously, it's very risky for any team to pick up an injured player, especially if you're a tourist and you don't have insurance. Because in the US, that's another important thing. So with all those things in mind, it just made more sense for me to close that chapter and come to Spain and try some luck here.
How did it go? Because you were this close
Yeah.
to achieving your dream that you worked for
Exactly.
20 plus years since you were 4 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it swept away.
Yeah, yeah, it literally looked like I was about to grab the trophy, and then somebody just took it from me. And the thing that I had been working on for 20 years was not coming into fruition. It was not becoming my reality, and I just couldn't understand why. I couldn't wrap my head around why this was happening to me, why it happened in 2022, and why it was happening again. The both times where I was the closest and playing at the best level I had played, both times I get quote unquote silly injuries because a shoulder dislocation is so unlikely in soccer. And then a meniscus is something that you cannot really train for because you cannot strengthen your knee, you cannot strengthen your meniscus. It's not a muscle, it's just, almost a bone. It's like an in-between structure. But anyways, I didn't understand why. I just kept asking myself that question of why is this happening to me? Like, why? If I'm the person that I think works the hardest in my environment, and I have other friends that are professional players, I know I'm at the level. I have very close friends that were playing with me in William Mary that were playing professionally, and I wasn't, and it just made no sense to me. I came back to Spain, trained with some semi-professional teams, and I realized that was not what I wanted. I didn't want a semi-professional environment. I wanted to be fully professional. So that's what I did for the months of like end of March, April, and May of 24. And then obviously the seasons in Europe end in May 24. I even went to Italy to train with a team. So like I said, I was going all in and I was trying to take any opportunity that I had. But again, it was semi-professional. I didn't really enjoy the environment or anything. So during that time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself the summer because that's the biggest period of the market, like the transfer market. I'm gonna give myself the summer and hopefully something comes up that's a good opportunity. And if not, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I just focused on that. And at the same time, luckily for me, I had a couple very close friends, which I'm actually traveling the world with right now. They're with me here in Bali, that were like, dude, you realize you have a lot of value that you could be sharing on social media because you have such a different perspective and background than anybody in Spain, because there's not many people that have been very close to being professional athletes and also studying in the US nutrition and health. Like there's pretty much literally nobody that has done that. They were like, dude, you have to create like a personal brand. and just share your knowledge. And you get better at it. You're gonna suck at first, and you're gonna suck at first too if you're creating a personal brand. I
A
promise you that.
100%.
Like,
From creating over 100 videos right now, your first video will suck.
yeah, yeah,
That
it's
that
gonna be awful, and that's okay. That's part of the journey. Nobody is born knowing how to do it. However, I do encourage you to do it. It's going to teach you a lot about yourself. It's going to teach you how to talk in front of the camera. It's going to teach you how to plan ahead. It's going to teach you a lot of things, and it's going to really test not only your patience but your confidence and just a lot of things. And it's also going to help you realize how much you know about something and how little you know and what are your weak points, because it literally shows you. And if it doesn't show you, people on the Instagram on the internet will tell you what your weaknesses are. That's one of the bad things about trying to be a social media person, is that you're always gonna have critics. But luckily, I made the decision. I created my health account late May, beginning of June of 24, and I was just doing, as a plan B. I was just like, look, I'm enjoying this. It's a great accountability partner because it forces you to be the best version of yourself. Because you're showing it to the world. You're literally sharing like what you do every day and what you think and your knowledge and all that stuff. So it forces you to be a better version of yourself. And I really enjoyed that part. I was like, dude, this is holding me accountable better than I can hold myself accountable. So I really want to keep doing this. And I had some success. I gained a few hundred, a few thousand followers in the next few months, but nothing crazy. After 2 or 3 months, I was still at like 5, 6K. So nothing crazy, but I didn't expect anything of it. Like I said, I was just learning. I knew I was gonna commit to doing it for a year. And then if it didn't work out at the end of that year, then maybe I would go on a different path. But I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna give it a year, I might as well like give it a good chance and not just half-ass it. So I did, but during the summer, I went back to the US to still look for those opportunities to see if something came up. Have some fun with my friends, because it was the last summer that I knew I was gonna be like quote unquote free, because hopefully I was gonna have soccer for a few more years. So I decided to do that and still try to find a team during that entire summer.
And you told me that you send messages to all over the world, everyone. Just give people a small grasp on the obsession you had on finding a team to play.
Yeah. I mean, I was literally reaching out every single day, sending emails to teams. Even if I had the phone number, I would give a phone call or like a WhatsApp phone call, because obviously that's free because it's through Wi-Fi. And I would try to do literally everything. I also had agents that were working for me, trying to help me knock on literally people's doors. And I knocked on every single door that I could. I sent my resume all over South America, all over Asia, even to like Israel and places like that. Like, I literally did not care where I was gonna end up. I just wanted to be a professional soccer player. That was my obsession. And it had been my obsession for more than 20 years. So I didn't know anything else. I didn't know what to do if it wasn't that. So I gave it my all during those months and literally did not leave like anything on the tank. I emptied myself during the process.
But within those months, there was also something else that became a part of your life.
Yeah. So during the first, or probably during the last year of college, end of 2023, I started, let's just call it, believing on something greater than me, because I realized that just with personal development and all that stuff, I realized that there was certainly something bigger out there that was able to create like something beautiful like this. Like, I don't think this is done by chance. And I was surrounded by very good friends that were very faithful in their own lives, and I started surrounding myself with those types of people, and I really enjoyed it much more than I expected, because I grew up Catholic in a Catholic school, and I hated it. I was forced to go to church. I was forced to pray. I was forced to study religion. It was just something that I rejected so greatly, because it was forced upon me so much during my youth years, that I had been very close to any sort of religion during like from my teen years to like my early 20s. However, I started just opening my heart to it, and in 2024 is when I started surrounding myself with a very strong Christian community, and I really enjoyed their values. I really enjoyed their vision, and I also really enjoyed just the act of praying. It helped me during those very hard times. It helped me just literally. I feel like I had a psychologist listening to me every single day, and it also helped me put the pressure on something else besides me. And enduring those hard times with somebody else was very, very helpful. However, I just never felt like I was truly being listened to because it was not coming to fruition. I was so obsessed with the results that I was not enjoying the process that much. And that's something that I obviously highly regret. And now looking back to it, it's something that I know I could have changed because I was always praying for results. Always like, please help me get that professional contract. Please help me get on someone's field and show them what I'm capable of, etc., etc. I was always praying for the result and not trusting that he had a better plan for me, pretty much.
Yeah. And in the end of the season, so in the end of August, you had nothing.
Yeah. So the market closed August 31st, which is technically the last day where teams can sign players. When you're a free agent, you can still sign later on. But basically, if a team has not signed somebody by August 31st, unless there's big injuries, it is extremely unlikely that they sign somebody after that because all the spots are taken. So I knew that that was probably going to be the end of it for me. If nobody had picked up my option, then it was going to be very tough because I was very close to having been 1 year without playing an official game. And that is a long time for professional soccer, especially if you're 24 years old. Because, like I mentioned earlier, if you're an U23, you have certain advantages. Obviously, if you're 24 years old, you don't have those anymore, and that's where I found myself. So
How did you feel?
it just felt like I had no path to keep walking. The path that I had been walking my entire life for at least 20 years was looking very dark. And I had knocked on all the doors, and all the doors were just kept closing in front of me and closing and closing and closing. And I just looked around, and all I could see was just darkness. I couldn't see another path to walk, another way to go. So I just felt lost during that time. And obviously, like I was still doing social media in the bag. I was at, like I said, 5 to 6 thousand followers at the time. I felt a bit stuck. But at that time, I was like, you know what? This is literally the only thing I had. I think I'm gonna try and going hard at this. And so I did for some part of August, and I really enjoyed it. However, the big day for me was September 6th, 2024, because I was literally at my home. The market had been closed for a week. I was home alone. I was just watching The Chosen, which is a great show if you're interested in Christianity and the life of Jesus Christ. That show is amazing. It shows things in a very cool way and in a very authentic way, and everything is obviously based on the true stories based on the Bible. And I highly recommend that show if you're interested in learning more about Christianity and the life of Jesus Christ. And I was watching this one episode, I think it's the fourth episode of the first season, where Simon Peter, who ends up being a disciple, and his brother go on to fish during the night because Simon Peter he owed a lot of money to the Romans. So it was in big trouble because if he didn't pay off that day, then the next day they were going to capture him and they were probably going to either put him in prison or just straight up kill him. So he went and tried fishing for the entire night, just throwing the net over and over for hours and hours and hours, and he did not catch a single fish. So when the sun was rising, him and his like fisherman friends went to the shore because that was it. Like he literally couldn't do anything. He had not fished a single fish, and then the day of, like his last day was done. So when he went to the shore, Jesus happened to be there, just giving some teachings to some people from that village. And when they got there, he was just extremely sad. But Andrew, his brother, was extremely happy to see Jesus there. It's like, Andrew, Jesus, you have to meet my brother. Like this is Simon. Simon, this is Jesus. Like you have to meet this guy. It's like Simon was like, hey, like nice to meet you, but like I don't have time for this. I have somewhere to be. I have to say goodbye to my wife, because this might be the last day for me. And she just was like, can you do me a favor and throw that net one more time? And it was like, no, what? Like there's no fish on the shore. Like the shore is just sand. Like there's literally no depth. There's not gonna be any fish here. It's like, and Andrew, his brother, was like, trust him. If he's telling you to do this, it's probably for a reason. So he reluctantly gets to the boat and throws the net. And the moment he throws the net, he like looks to Jesus and he's like, see, I told you. And then he starts hearing a sound, and the sound is just fishes coming into the net, and the net ended up being filled with like hundreds and thousands of fishes that basically paid off his debt and saved him. And from that moment on, he was a follower of Jesus Christ for the rest of his life. And I don't know why I felt like I emphasized, and yeah, I feel like I emphasized so much with that story that when the chapter ended, I closed my laptop and I just started crying. I was like, this is it. Like I haven't let him be a part of my life and guide me. And I know that the moment that I do, he's just gonna take control and everything is gonna be all right. I just have to put my full faith on him. And that day, I just repented. I said everything that I had to say. I don't know exactly what I said. It's just one of those moments that the words are just coming out of your mouth. And funny enough, I went to sleep that day, and the next day, I was not active on TikTok at all. I was mainly focusing on Instagram for my social media. And the next day, I go on TikTok and I have a message from a random guy that was basically like, hey, I really like your content. I want to hire you and work with you. Do you do that? And at that point, I was just sharing the knowledge that I had on social media. I had no product or service available for anybody because, as I mentioned, I was very focused on soccer. So when that happened, I was like, interesting. This is basically a door opening that obviously is not on the path that I was trying to walk, but it's certainly another path that I could walk. So I picked up that client, and he ended up being a great success story of mine. He lost more than 10 kilograms with me in over 3 months, which is more than 23 pounds. And long story short, that same week and for the next like 4 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, I 10x'd my following. So I went from, I think it was from like 6K to 60 something thousand followers by the end of October. And like I said, this happened September 6th.
All because of one video, right?
All because of one video that gave me pretty much 60,000 followers, and a few other videos that were like helping as well. But literally this one video that was just super simple. It was like every other video that I had done, but that one blew up, and it just literally changed my life in a matter of a few weeks.
How do you deal with that? Because then at some point, through your shoulder injury, you felt the most lost ever. Mm-hmm. Then you started praying, because you've been praying all along. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you felt like there was someone actually listening. Mm-hmm. Then the client comes. Mm-hmm. Then you 10x your following in a really short time.
Yeah, yeah.
What effect has that on you?
So there was just a huge overflow of work because I was not only focused on social media anymore. Now I had a client and a few more clients that I ended up picking up that month that I had to like provide a service for. And also with a huge following comes a lot of comments, a lot of DMs, a lot of just social media management that I didn't have the time to do. So I ended up having to rely on other people and hire some people to do that work for me because it was literally impossible. I was not able to edit the videos, post the content, reply to all the messages, all that stuff, and also sell my new service, give my new service to my new clients, make sure the clients are doing well, creating everything that I wanted to create. It was impossible to plan. Like I was literally waking up every day and just improvising as I went along with the day, which, like I mentioned earlier, planification is one of the most important things. So during that period of time, obviously, I was not able to plan as much as I wanted because I was just overflown with responsibilities.
How did you, because now you have a team around you, how did you start building your first team?
So luckily, I came across a couple that they were Argentinian guys, and they're basically growth partners. So what they help you do is they help you focus on creating the content and providing the product or service that you want to provide, and they take care of everything else. They take care of the funnel creation, the lead generation. They get a setter for you. They get a content specialist for you. All that stuff they take care of, so you can focus on what you have to focus on and what you're good at. Which in my case was talking in front of the camera and providing the service that I had to provide. So luckily, I came across them late September. In October, we started working together, and by the end of October, we had everything just organized to be able to actually launch and take on more clients. Because the sad part was that because I didn't have time, I couldn't take more clients. I just literally couldn't because I didn't have the time to give them the attention that they needed.
There's a plane coming across in between. And because you're really big on health, you build a team now, you have a team around you, so you can focus more on your clients. But what do you do with your clients?
I basically help them become the best version of themselves because I think the healthiest version of a person is gonna help them be the best version in many other ways. I think your health has an extreme impact on everything else that you do. If you're healthier, you are a better person. You're nicer to other people. Your hormones are better. Your sleep is better. You have more energy during the day. If you know what to sleep, you're gonna look better, feel better as well. And if you learn how to take care of your sleep, everything is gonna become easier because when you're fresh, you know everything is just literally easier. You solve problems faster, you make better decisions, etc., etc. So I have a very holistic approach because I realize that out there, either you hire a nutritionist, so he's taking care of only the food you eat. You hire a personal trainer, which is taking care of only what you do when you work out, or you literally go to like a therapist or something like that to take care of your mental health. And I realized that nobody was really talking about sleep, at least in Spain, or the importance of it, and teaching how to get better at it. And I had been studying it for 4+ years at that point because I had been studying my own sleep for almost 2,000 nights, which is how many nights there are in like 5 years. So mixing everything, I ended up providing a service that had a very holistic approach. So I taught people not only how to eat and how to train, which I did for them so that they could see how I would do it if I was in their shoes, but also I would teach them how to sleep and how to take care of their environment, which for me is very important. The people that you surround yourself with, the community that you're a part of, the choices that you make in terms of like the lights and the air that you breathe and the water that you drink and all those toxic things that we have around today. Just teaching them how to be mindful about that, and then giving them tools like learning how to breathe, learning how to write down on a journal so you can empty your thoughts and have more mental clarity. Little things like that, I think, is what makes it a bit different. And I think that's what helps the people the most because my goal is for them to be independent. I don't want people to rely on my product or service to be healthy. I want them to be healthy because they are healthy people because they are fully independent humans.
And from that point on, started to grow further. You started to develop your service further in a way that actually helps people based on your own experiences. But the past
Yeah.
came to your future.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
What happened?
So fast forward a couple months, in November, I got an invite to be a speaker at an event that was happening in Barcelona in middle of December. And that event was happening because the people that I had the network marketing with were like hosting an event for this new company called Evo Global that was basically starting to grow in Europe, but had been in Mexico for a couple of years. It was a new company, and we wanted to be the pioneers in Spain. They were like, "Hey, we're doing like an entrepreneurial event. We're obviously gonna share stuff about Evo Global because that's the company that we're doing network marketing for. But we also want to have people that talk about health and talk about business and different perspectives. And we want you to be the guy that talks about health. Are you down?" And I had never spoken in front of like more than 50 people. And that event was in front of like a couple hundred, 300 people. It was like 250 or something. So it was a big deal for me. But I was like, yeah, of course I want to do it. Like, sure, why
Why
not?
not?
Exactly, why not? And funny enough, the CEO of the company was there, and when he saw my speech, he was like, "I don't know who this guy is, but I want him on our team." So after that, we started chatting it up, seeing how we could, just make a deal. And they offered me to be an educator for them because they have an online platform where they teach about like finances, different skills that you can use in terms of like marketing and sales and all that stuff. But they also have a health part that was empty in Europe. Like there was nobody teaching health for the European public. So they were like, "We want this guy," and I was like, "Sure, let's do it 3 times a week." I teach online, and I'm just a part of it. And then I also, because of their year-long membership, I got a free cruise to Dubai with all of my friends that were part of the company. So I was like, sounds like a great deal. Let's do it. And I gave it the first talks were we were just gonna give it 3 months and see how we felt, and then from them on we would decide again.
And from Dubai, you went to Bali.
Yep.
In
Yep.
Bali, you did a run club, and
Yep.
that's where we met.
And here we are.
And now we're in a villa recording a podcast
Yep.
with some birds and shit in the background.
Yep. Exactly.
So, how's that partnership gonna go along? Because the 3 months are almost over, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that was another reason why I wanted to go to the Dubai cruise, is because obviously I knew the people that were in charge of the company were gonna be there, and I wanted to see what the vision was, because obviously this is very early in Spain. We have no products, which we want to launch a lot of health products, and they were giving me the responsibility to be the one creating those products. So I was like, okay, but before we do all this, I want to see how, like, what the vision is, the commitment that the company has to all this, what they're willing to invest, if they're willing to listen, what's the vision with the products, like, do they want to create shitty products like most of the dietary supplements out there, or do we want to create real products that are going to be helpful for people even if it's more expensive? And once I cleared up all those questions, and once I also saw the health impact that we can have in Spain with just leveraging ourselves with a company like this that obviously has the money and we have the knowledge, and we can use their money to create things like supplements, like events, like just all those things. I really, really, really liked it, and I felt very aligned with it, because at the end of the day, the goal of the company is to make people's lives better, and that's what I do with my health and with just health in general. Is hoping I can help people be the healthiest version of themselves, because I think that's what's gonna push them be the best version of themselves. So once all those things clicked in the cruise, I was like, okay, let's take this seriously. Let's focus on creating the best products that we can create, and also creating the best events that we can, so we can actually have like little hangouts where we literally go to the beach and work out all together and teach people how to work out without needing to go to a gym, and just with their body. For example, we teach them how to eat, because then we give them a little class and stuff like that. It's just literally the goal is to help people get healthier, and once they get healthier, they're going to be a better version of themselves. So that's pretty much the vision, and I really, really aligned with that.
And what's it like for you right now? Because right now you strike a new partnership with that company to also work out supplements and everything based on the knowledge that you already have, based on the experience that you already have. You're gonna grow a new team.
Yeah, so that's the goal, because obviously when you want to share a big message with the world, you need people that align with you and that do it with you. And that's basically what I'm focusing on right now. Not only in this time in Bali, where obviously we're focusing on enjoying this, but also working a lot and developing different businesses, but also making sure I get the best people that I can around me, so I can grow this idea that we have, and this make this a reality the way we want to make it in Spain. Because obviously with one person you can do a lot of things, but imagine with a team of like 10, 20, 30, 50 people that are sharing the same stuff that you want to share, and are focusing on the same things that you want to focus on. So that's pretty much the goal right now, is to just associate myself with people that have that vision with me, that want to share that with me, and obviously that want to be a part of what I am creating, which I think is something very special. And I think it's something that can have a very positive impact in just the health of Europe's society.
Where do you find those people?
As of right now, online, but also in person, and that's the power of social media. You can you can get in contact with a lot of people just by literally sharing a message of like, hey, I'm looking for 5 people that want to develop like the health of Spaniards all around Spain and focus on giving them the best product and services that we can and helping them be a better version of themselves. Do you want to be a part of this? And if people do, then they can just say yes to you. And then you can start creating partnerships that way. And also, when you're here in person, you come across a lot of people that have very similar mindset. Because one of the cool things about Bali is that people here usually have some sort of business that provides value, real value to like other people, and that's how they make money and are able to, work remotely or have some sort of business and that lets them be here. So everybody here has that entrepreneurial mindset of, I know in order to make money, I have to provide value. So I'm focusing on providing value, and money will just be the consequence.
The outcome of providing value.
Exactly. What?
The outcome of providing
Yeah,
value
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
money
yeah.
in that
The
way.
outcome, yeah, 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 exactly.
So in that way, network marketing created a new part for you. But now you're also traveling.
Yeah,
And how do you manage your health while traveling? Because you're training for a marathon right now.
yeah. So I signed up for the San Diego Marathon, which is June 1st. If you're gonna be there, please let me know. And I want to train for that. Obviously, focusing on training for a marathon is right now a priority of mine, and it needs a lot of time invested in it. So, like I mentioned earlier, right now it's just a matter of priorities. And once I know my priorities, I can organize the week around those priorities, which is something that I like to do on Sundays actually. Sundays I like to spend time just blocking out the times that I know for sure I'm gonna have to put in my priorities, and then the rest of the week just gets filled up with the other stuff. Let's just call it that way. So, for example, I now have to block time for training for around a couple hours a day, and then eating for about an hour or two a day as well. And then focusing on certain things that I have to do for sure, which is like teaching class online. I have to do for sure Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at a certain time. So I block that time off, and then that's when I fit the rest of the priorities. So once I have everything set up in terms of what I for sure have to do, everything that's mandatory and everything that's a priority, then the rest just falls into place.
And then another thing that I want to dive into, because the last podcast you gave some really good advice on that, but then we did not record and now we do. Is while traveling, it's quite hard to manage your food in a proper way.
Yeah, yeah, it's not easy. It's certainly not easy. If I could give you one piece of advice, is focus on 5 food groups: meat, fish, eggs, fruits, and vegetables. If you focus on those 5 things, you're probably gonna be giving your body most, if not all, of the nutrients that it needs, and it doesn't really matter where you are. So the easiest way for me to see it is if you have a plate that's, let's just say 100%, 40% of that plate has to be some sort of protein, whether it's like steak, chicken, turkey, fish. I don't really care. And then the other 40% has to be fruits and vegetables to give you your micronutrients, your fiber, and all those good things that those foods have. And then the rest of it is just enjoy it. Make sure you're not choosing shitty things like margarine and seed oils and stuff like that. But just enjoy it, and depending on how hard you're working out and what you have to do the rest of the day, just make sure that 20% makes sense and aligns with what you want. But I think with those 3 in mind, it's gonna be much easier for you to stay fit and keep that like healthy nutrition that obviously is gonna help you be the better version of yourself.
And then also, that's what you said last time as well. Look at where you are. Because
Yeah.
right now we're in Bali.
Yeah.
What you have
exactly.
there, coconuts, lots of papayas,
Yep.
and all kinds of tropical fruits. But
Yeah.
when you're at Madeira, for example, they have really nice bananas and everything. So also look at the places where you are, what type of food comes from there, and then in that way manage it
Yeah.
in a way that you don't eat that many highly processed stuff.
Exactly, exactly. If you buy local, you make sure it has the least amount of processing happening to it, because it's not the same buying an avocado from, if you're in Spain, it's not the same buying an avocado from Spain than buying it from Mexico. It has to get all the way from Mexico to Spain. How is that going to happen? It's going to have some sort of processing to it, because if not, it's going to go bad. So focusing on local products is gonna also help you save money, because you're not paying for the transportation. You're helping out local people, because while you're in Bali, why not help out the people that are giving you a service and are helping you enjoy this place? And also you make sure it has the least amount of processing happening to it as possible. For example, if you're in Spain, then I would certainly recommend eating more serrano ham, because that's one of our best things. And eat more olives, because we do have great olives, and maybe not great avocados. Maybe when you're in Mexico, eat more avocados, or when you're here in Bali, eat more avocados. But when you're in Spain, maybe not. You know.
Yeah, so based on where you are, and if there's one thing that you really want to say to the people who made it this far, what would it be?
Yeah, only one thing that. Okay.
Or just speak your mind.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Just do my thing. If I could give you one piece of advice, it would be trust that if you give your 100% in whatever you do, you're gonna end up where you deserve to be and where you need to be. And if you have the peace of mind that you're doing the best that you can with what you have all the time, then nothing that happens is gonna take away that peace of mind from you. And that's what I realized during 2024. I gave it my all to soccer, and it didn't come out the way I expected it to come out, and I was okay with that, because I had given it my all for 20 years. Therefore, nobody could take that away from me. And funny enough, the other path came out once I started trusting in him, in God, and once I let him guide me and dictate my next steps. And if you don't yet, I would recommend starting finding more information about, just heart entities, because I think that's definitely something that we can, most if not all, agree on. There's definitely something bigger than us out there, and I would recommend you line up with something like that, because I think your spiritual side also needs to be fed, and when you feed that and you feel aligned with that, your health is gonna also grow, and with that you're gonna become a better version of yourself.
All right. Then I will leave all your links down in the description. I will text you up front before this comes online.
Lovely.
So they can find your Instagram, they can find the website? Or
Yeah, we'll have a website, we'll have TikTok, maybe even my phone number if you need it, or something like that. Because
that's up to you.
yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Whatever you need, it'll be down here.
And then I would say like, subscribe, do a little rain dance or something weird. I don't give shit actually. Just like and subscribe. Share it if you think this was valuable. And visionaries, take action and check you later. Ciao.
See you on the next one.